This is a beginner's guide for using CrossOver 25 to play PC games on your Mac. If you've used CrossOver before, you most likely don't need to watch this video. But if you're new to Mac gaming and are looking to learn how to best use CrossOver, this video can show you how. In it, we'll go over what even is CrossOver, how to navigate the CodeWeavers website, how to use CodeWeavers compatibility search, how to set up CrossOver 25, what a bottle is and how it works, how to run a standalone .exe file with CrossOver, how to submit a game report to CodeWeavers, how to use an external drive or folder with CrossOver. We'll also go over some controller tips and tricks, new features in CrossOver 25, and then we'll end the video by testing a few games on my M4 Mac Mini. So for those that don't know, CrossOver is a Mac app created by CodeWeavers that allows us to run Windows-only games on Mac using Wine. Wine is basically a compatibility layer that translates Windows instructions into macOS instructions. So while Mac is getting more and more native game ports like the Resident Evil series, Death Stranding, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and Cyberpunk, there are still a huge amount of games that will never get Mac ports, and that's where CrossOver comes in. It's hands down the best option for running Windows games on your Mac. So let's check out the website and download CrossOver. I'm going to go to my web browser and I'm going to go to CodeWeavers.com. This is CodeWeavers' main page. This little magnifying glass here lets you search their compatibility database. Let's say I'm trying to run Dead Space. I can type in Dead Space. It'll give me a star rating. It seems like it runs great. It was tested on CrossOver 25, and then I can see individual reports from different people. So this says consistent 60 FPS with controller, cutscenes drop to 30 FPS, game is now very playable with a consistent responsive experience. That sounds good. So we want to download CrossOver. I'm going to click CrossOver, choose Mac OS, and let's download the free trial. Once CrossOver is done downloading, I can go to my downloads folder and unzip the zip file and drag CrossOver 25 into my applications folder. Next, I'm going to find CrossOver in my applications folder, and I want this to live in my dock because I am constantly using it, and then I'm going to click it to open. So once you launch it, you'll get this window that says this is a time-limited trial of CrossOver. You can either try it now, or you can unlock it with your purchase info, which is what I'm going to do. So this is what CrossOver looks like. I'm going to go to my home page, and there's nothing here because I haven't set it up yet, but basically CrossOver works by using bottles. What is a bottle? A bottle is something you put stuff in, like water, or in my case, apple juice. I swear that's apple juice. In CrossOver, a bottle is essentially the same thing. So a CrossOver bottle contains everything we need to run a PC game. It's got Windows components, registry files, system DLLs, dependencies needed to run the game like DirectX or Visual C++, and then it's got the apps you install into it, like Steam, the EA app, or Ubisoft. It's all contained in the bottle. Simply, it's a self-contained environment that mimics a Windows installation. So once on my home screen, I'm going to make my first bottle. I'm going to click install here, and it's going to ask me what I want to install. Let's start with Steam. So under details, it says CrossOver will install Steam into a new Windows 10 64-bit bottle named Steam. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to click install. Once the Steam setup is complete, I'm going to uncheck Run Steam because there are still some bottle settings I need to change before launching it. A bottle's advanced settings need to be chosen before launching your game launcher or your game. So just like that, we now have a working Windows bottle. I have the bottle selected in my sidebar here, and here's the actual bottle, and I can launch apps directly from it. Every bottle has a configuration file that can be edited using a text editor. It's unlikely you'll need to edit your bottle's config file, but if you do, here's how. So the first thing I'm going to do is select my bottle in CrossOver. I have my Steam bottle selected, and then I'm going to go over here to my bottle actions and select Open C Drive. This will open our bottle's file path in Finder. So we want to go one folder back in the path. To do that, I'm going to go to the top menu bar of Finder and click View, and then I'm going to select Show Path Bar. Now we can see here at the bottom, it shows us the path of our files. So we're in Drive C right now, and we want to go one folder back to Steam. I'm going to select it. And once we go back a folder, we can find our CX bottle configuration file. So I'm going to right click it. I'm going to go to Open With, and I'm going to use Text Edit to open it. So this is our bottle's configuration file. If we want to add anything to it, we can scroll all the way to the bottom. Then I can press Enter to make a new line, and then I can paste my environment variable into this configuration file. So if you've seen my other videos, you know I like to include the Metal FPS HUD when showing gameplay. And the Metal HUD environment variable is one way to enable it. So I'm going to paste in the variable for the Metal HUD. Then I'm going to click File, Save. And that's it. The variable is now added to the bottle's configuration file, so anytime I launch a game with this bottle, the Metal HUD should show up. There's a few ways to enable the Metal HUD. Note that with all of the methods, you must close your game launcher and CrossOver completely before enabling the HUD. The first way is with Terminal. Quit CrossOver, open Terminal, and then paste the following command and hit Enter. The FPS HUD is now activated. To turn it off, paste the same command, but this time change the 1 to a 0 and hit Enter. The second way is using CrossOver itself. So here's one of my Steam bottles. I can right-click Steam, click Run with Options, and then under Environment Variables, I can click this little drop-down menu and select Metal Performance HUD. So that adds the Metal HUD enabled 1 variable to my bottle, and then I can click Run to launch Steam. The third way to enable the HUD is by using an app like FPS Counter, or a desktop shortcut like the one I made and use. The download links for the FPS Counter app and desktop shortcut are available in this video's description. Let's take a closer look at the layout of CrossOver 25. The CrossOver window can be split into 3 main sections. On the far left side is where we can see our created bottles. I've already made a few here. I've got one for the EA app, one for the Epic Games Store, and a couple Steam bottles. We can select which bottle we want to use. For this example, I've got my Steam Alt bottle selected. And that brings us to the next section of CrossOver, which is the launchpad for your selected bottle. So in this middle section here, you can see the name of our selected bottle, and then underneath are shortcuts for all of the apps that you installed with your bottle. You'll get a launchable shortcut here. So I've got the game AI Limit installed, and I've got Steam installed. I could double click the Steam icon to launch it, or I could double click the AI Limit shortcut, which would launch Steam and then the game. But before launching anything, we should take a look at the third section of CrossOver, the bottle settings. Specifically, the most important part, the advanced settings. This is where we choose the graphics method we want to use to run our games. For this example, I have D3D Metal selected, but some games run best with other options, so it's important to know which graphics option you want to use before launching Steam or your game. Let's take a look at the different graphics options we have under Advanced Settings. Each one is a different method CrossOver can use to run our games. The auto option is brand new in CrossOver 25. If the game you're playing is in CodeWeavers auto database, CrossOver will automatically pick the best backend for your game. As more and more games get added to the database, this option will become even more useful. But if auto doesn't work, or if you want to pick something specific, there are other options too. D3D Metal uses Apple's game porting toolkit. It's great for DX12 games like Spider-Man Remastered or The Last of Us Part 2. Then there's DXMT, developed by the incredibly talented 3Shane. It's still a work in progress, but already runs a lot of DX11 games, and performance is usually excellent. DXVK is another option. It translates DirectX 9, 10, and 11 games into Vulkan. This can work well in some cases, especially with some older titles. And finally, there's Wine, which uses something called Wine D3D. Wine D3D isn't used too often these days, but is typically used for running older games. Under graphics, we've got our synchronization settings. Best practice here is to set it to MSync. It can give a small performance boost and helps with stability in a lot of games. So that's a closer look at advanced settings. In general, it's a good idea to look up which backend works best for your game before launching Steam, instead of testing each one by trial and error. Up top, we also have our Run Command button, which lets us run exe files, installers, and other files with our selected bottle. We also have our bottle actions, which lets us easily navigate our bottle's C drive, allows us to install apps directly into our bottle, and it has shortcuts for quitting all running applications and for deleting our bottle. I leave those alone. And then at the bottom here, we have our selected bottles control panel, which lets us configure wine settings, like choosing the version of Windows we use. In the control panel, you'll typically only need to bother with using wine configuration and game controllers. So that's the basic layout of the CrossOver app. Let's check out how to actually use it. If you have a file or an installer or just a standalone.exe file you want to run, you can do that with Run Command. So I'm going to click Run Command, and under Command is where we choose what we want to run. So I'm going to click Browse, and in my Downloads folder, I have a copy of Dust Swap Dust Trust, which has an exe file that I want to launch. So I find my exe file here, and then I can click Open, and then I can click Run. I'm going to exit out of that, and let's say I want to do that same thing, but I don't want to have to use Run Command every time. I just want to be able to launch it from my bottle. When you launch your exe with Run Command, go to Browse, choose the exe file you want to run, and then make sure to click Save Command as a launcher. So now I can just double click Dust Swap to launch it right from my bottle. Dust Swap seems to work fine, but sometimes you may get an error when trying to run a .exe file that isn't located within your bottle. So if you're having trouble getting your .exe file to launch, you can try locating your file. Mine is in my Downloads folder. And then I'm going to open my bottle's C drive and move the entire game folder into a folder within my bottle. So I'm going to go into my Program Files folder and put it there. This isn't always necessary, but it's good practice to keep your standalone.exe files in your bottle to avoid issues or errors. So Run Command can also be used to run a game's installer. So I have the GOG installer for I Am Your Beast in my Downloads folder, and I want to install I Am Your Beast into my bottle. So I'm going to click Run Command, I'm going to go to Browse, Downloads, and here's my I Am Your Beast setup exe. I'm going to select it, and then click Run. So now I can follow the directions of the setup installer and install the game into my bottle. So it looks like installing I Am Your Beast didn't give me a launchable shortcut, so I'm going to add it myself. I'm going to click Run Command, browse my bottles files. I have a GOG Games folder here. I'm going to go into that, I Am Your Beast, and then I'll find the IamYourBeast.exe, select it, and then I'm going to click Save Command as a launcher, and now I have my shortcut here. You can also use install application into bottle. It kind of does the same thing as run command. You can click it. You can install one of CrossOver's popular applications directly into your bottle. Then we have our control panels. Typically the only options that you're going to want to use here are wine configuration and game controllers. I'll show you how we can use those in a little bit. But for now, we have our advanced settings selected, and let's go ahead and launch Steam. So once Steam launches, we're now running a legitimate copy of Steam for Windows. So if I choose a game and install it, it's going to be installing the Windows version into our bottle. So what game do we want to play? Let's start with something simple. Let's do Animal Well. It's a small, simple game that only has a Windows port, but I really want to play it on my Mac. The first thing I do is look up its compatibility report. So I'm going to go to Safari, let's go to CodeWeavers.com, and let's check out Animal Well. So it's got a 5-star rating, which is a good sign. It looks like the last person that tried it was using CrossOver 24. Let's select this. And they didn't mention the best way to run it. This person says Metal has issues but runs flawless with DXVK. Runs great. So based on the report, it looks like DXVK is the best way to run it. I happen to know for a fact that it runs great with the game porting toolkit as well, but let's switch to DXVK just so we can see how to do it. If we want to switch our graphics backend, the first thing we need to do is quit completely out of Steam. Once we're out of Steam, then we can go to our bottle's advanced settings, go back to the graphics backend option and change it to DXVK, and then we can relaunch Steam. So next I'm going to find Animal Well and install it. Once downloaded, I can click play to launch the game. Please work, please work, please work. Alright, well that was just a flickering screen. That's definitely not what we want, but that's okay. That just means that DXVK is not the method we want to use. So I'm going to quit Steam and I'm going to switch my graphics backend back to D3D Metal. Alright, let's try it again. Alright, that works a lot better. So I'm going to be a responsible CrossOver user, and I'm going to go to CodeWeavers.com, go to the Animal Well page, and I'm going to submit a quick report. So CrossOver version, I'm using CrossOver 25 on Mac. It should get 5 stars because it runs great. And under my notes, I'm going to say runs best with D3D Metal. DXVK is broken. Let's take a look at how to store our games onto an external drive or a separate folder instead of inside of your bottle. It's highly recommended not to download your games directly into your bottle. For example, if you have a Steam bottle and you install Cyberpunk to the default C drive, the game files will be downloaded into your bottle. The problem with that is that if something happens to your bottle, or if you need to switch to a different bottle, you'll have to re-download the entire game. That's why it's best practice to download your games to an external folder or drive. That way, the game files stay intact even if you change or delete your bottle. No matter what bottle you're using, all you'll have to do is point CrossOver to your external drive or folder, and you'll be ready to play your games. Here's how to download your games to an external drive or folder. Let's start with an external folder. To do this, I'm going to go to my Finder and I'm going to choose a location for my Steam folder. I'm going to go to my Documents folder and create my new folder here. I'm going to right click and click New Folder, and I'm going to name this CX Steam Library. So this is going to be the folder that I download my Steam games to. I'm going to go to CrossOver, and I have my Steam bottle selected, and we need to point CrossOver to our folder's location. So to do that, we're going to use Wine Configuration. Under Wine Configuration for our bottle, we can go to the Drives tab, and here we can see the different drives that our bottle is using. We have our C drive, a Y drive, which is my Mac Pro Tips user account, and then the Z drive, which we're going to leave alone. But we want to add a new drive. So I'm going to click Add, and then we can choose a letter. I'm going to choose X, click OK, and then we want to browse to select the folder or drive we want to use for our X drive. So I'm going to click Browse, and we want to find the folder we just made in my Documents folder. So I'm going to go to Users, Mac Pro Tips. Here's my Documents folder. And I'm going to look for CX Steam Library, the folder that I made. And then I can click OK. So now we can see we have our X drive, and its target folder is my CX Steam Library folder. I can click Apply and then OK. So now CrossOver has access to that folder. The next step is to launch Steam and tell Steam that this is where we want to download our games to. Once in Steam, I'm going to click Steam in the top left-hand corner and go to Settings. And then we want to go to Storage. And under Storage, we're going to choose the drive that we want to add. So our C drive is already added. We're going to click Add Drive. And it should automatically find your X drive. Click Add. And now Steam has access to the folder we made. So if I want to download a game, I can search for my game, click Install, and now I can either choose the C drive, which is the drive inside of the bottle, or I can choose my X drive, which is my external folder. So I'm going to choose my X drive, click Install, and now if I go to Finder and look in my folder here, you can see that we have our Steam library folders, all our Steam files, and then the game that we downloaded. So you can do the same thing with an external drive. I have my external drive plugged in, and here it is in Finder, and I'm going to make a new folder in it, and let's call it CX Steam Library. And I'm going to go to Wine Configuration, Drives, and I want to add a new drive. So I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to choose a new letter. Let's go with V. And then we want to select our external drive. So I'm going to click Browse. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and if you look under Volumes, you'll see your connected external drives. Mine is Ruby, and I want it to specifically download into my CX Steam Library folder, so I have that selected. I'm going to click OK, Apply, and OK. So the next step is launching Steam from my bottle and adding my drive. So I'm going to launch Steam. And in the top menu bar of Steam, I'm going to click Steam, Settings, and then I'm going to click Storage, and then under this drop-down menu, I'm going to click it and then click Add Drive. So this is my external drive that I made my X drive earlier, so I can click Add. And then if I go to my library, you can see that all of the games that I've previously downloaded are now available for me to play. Here's how to use a controller with CrossOver. The most important thing to know when using a controller with CrossOver is the correct way to connect it. To properly connect your controller, you must have CrossOver and Steam completely closed. The first step is connecting your controller to your Mac with either Bluetooth or a wire. The second step is opening CrossOver. Now your controller is ready to use with CrossOver. If I select my bottle and go to Control Panel and then click Game Controllers, I should see my connected controller listed. Now I'm going to launch Steam and try a game. Most games should work perfectly with a controller through CrossOver, but if you're having controller issues, there are a couple of things that we can try. So this is Fallout 76, and for some reason, the controller is not working. So the first thing we can try is that if we're using Steam, you can select your game in your Steam library, click the controller button, and turn Steam input on. This will use Steam's built-in controller mapping to play your game and can sometimes fix a controller not working properly. So enabling Steam input works to fix controller issues with Fallout 76. But if Steam input doesn't fix your issue, there's one more thing you can try, and that's simply trying the controller with a wired connection. So to do this, I would quit CrossOver, connect my wired controller, and then reopen CrossOver. First is the inclusion of the new graphics backend, DXMT. DXMT stands for DirectX to Metal, and is a new way of translating PC games to Mac. As of recording this video, DXMT only works with DX11 games, but the incredibly talented dev 3Shane is always hard at work improving DXMT. In a ton of different game testing, DXMT outperforms D3D Metal and yields some incredible results. With CrossOver 25, the DXMT option is built right into the graphics selector in your bottle's advanced settings. CrossOver 25 comes with the latest version of the Apple Game Porting Toolkit built in. There's also over 5,000 individual fixes to Wine, Molten VK has been updated, and game launchers that were previously not working, like the Epic Games Store, the EA app, and Ubisoft, are now usable, meaning games like Rocket League and Alan Wake 2 are now playable through CrossOver. Lastly, CrossOver 25 brings support for games that use AVX2 and FC16, so games like The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima will soon be playable without any workarounds. Overall, it's a great set of new features, and in my opinion, CrossOver is in the best shape it's been in a long time. So that's pretty much everything you need to know to get started with CrossOver 25 on Mac. Before we go, I'm gonna run through the CrossOver setup one more time using everything we've learned and play some Fallout 76 on Mac. Here we go. Alright, I'm gonna go to my web browser. I'm gonna go to CodeWeavers.com, click CrossOver, macOS, free trial. Download the trial. Once done downloading, I'm going to unzip it and drag it into my applications folder. I'm going to launch CrossOver. Once in CrossOver, we're going to make a new bottle. I want to play Fallout 76, which I own through Steam. So I'm going to select Steam and then click Install to make my new Steam bottle. I can click Yes on all of these pop-ups. Once Steam is installed, I'm not going to run it right away. I'm going to click Finish. So I have my new Steam bottle here, and I'm going to go to my advanced settings. For graphics, I'm playing Fallout 76, and that uses DXVK, but I also know that it works with auto because it's in CodeWeavers database, so I'm just going to leave it on auto here. And for synchronization, I'm going to use msync. I also have my game already pre-downloaded on my external hard drive, so I'm going to add my external drive to my Steam bottle. I'm going to click Wine Configuration, I'm going to go to Drives, click Add, I'm going to select a letter for my drive, so let's go with X. Then I need to assign my external drive to my X drive. I'm going to make sure X is selected, click Browse, scroll down, look under Volumes, and find my Ruby external drive and click OK, then Apply and then OK. Now I'm ready to launch Steam. Once I'm logged into Steam, I'm going to click Steam in its menu bar, click Settings, go to Storage, and under the Storage drop-down menu, I'm going to add a drive and then add my external drive. I can go to my library, see my installed games, and Fallout 76 is ready for me to play. Okay, and since I already tried this, I know that we need to use Steam input to fix our controller issues, so I'm going to click the controller icon here, and I'm going to enable Steam input. Next, we can click play and play some Fallout 76. So yeah, this is Fallout 76 running on an M4 Mac Mini. When first playing a game, you may experience some stutters while shaders are cached. The more you play, the less stutter there should be. So that's a beginner's guide for CrossOver 25 on Mac. And you can play a lot more than just Fallout 76. There's an ever-growing library of games that can run through CrossOver. A CrossOver license lets you use the app forever with 1 year of free updates included. If you use the purchase link in this video's description, I receive a small kickback that helps support the channel, and I always deeply appreciate it. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.